Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the Columbus Crew in the season preview. So the Columbus Crew heading into this season is kind of having a new era. Gone are the days of their popular head coach Wilfried Nancy and the whole Nancy ball that's been put place in this team that make this team so successful and be probably one of the most entertaining team to watch, and then winning multiple trophy, including MLS Cup in 2023. But now it's Henrik Rydstrom that gets a chance to jump in, and I have a feeling, while I know Risham does have a pretty good resume when you look at how he did, especially back in his native country in Sweden, there is definitely the pressure, the fact that he needs to do well straight away, especially the shoes that he has to fill of Wilfred Nancy, of how Nancy was so successful with Columbus. It will be very interesting to see whether or not if he can fill that shoe and continue the continuity that the Columbus Crew team have shown in the past couple of years. Now, that being said, last season they finished with 14, 12, and 8 record and finished with 54 points. And yeah, last season, in terms of the first round, this one's got to hurt for Columbus fans. I mean, like getting eliminated to their cross state rival. I mean, I know Cincinnati, of course, did get their revenge over Columbus in terms of what happened in the Eastern Conference final a couple of years ago, but it still hurts when you do lose to your biggest rival in the playoffs. I mean, of all the teams that I think every team can agree that if they're gonna get eliminated in the playoffs, don't be our rival, because that's gonna really hurts. I mean, at least Columbus fans will still say that they, of course, have won a couple of MLS Cup, and probably are asking Cincinnati fans, "Where's your MLS Cup? I mean, have you won one so far?" But speaking of MLS Cup, their last MLS Cup was in 2023. Their last playoff appearance was 2025, but their last couple of playoff appearance has been relatively short. As I mentioned, they lost to Cincinnati in the first round after finishing 14, 12, and 8 record and finished with 54 points. They finished 19, 9, and 6 and finished with 66 points, but they suffer a shock first round exit in the hands of the New York Red Bulls. In 2023, they finished 16, 9, and 9 and finished with 57 points. They won MLS Cup 2023 by beating LAFC. In 2022, this was before Wilfred Nancy took over this team. This was still back in the Caleb Porter day, where, to be fair, Caleb Porter did win them an MLS Cup in 2020, so you shouldn't be discounting in terms of that. But let's just say that it was, besides that MLS Cup win in that COVID shortened season, it was kind of a mediocre time when he was the head coach of this team. They finished 10, 8, and 16 in his final season, finished with just 46 points, and make it to the playoffs. And then in 2021, they finished 13, 13, and 8, finished with 47 points, and also did not make it to the playoffs. Now, looking at some of the transfer that they've done, they haven't really done too much in the transfer market. They did bring in Sekou Bangura, which is probably the biggest signing that they, of course, had. He could definitely fill into that midfield straight away. They also got Jamal TRA, which seems like this is the direct replacement of Jason Russell Rowe that they recently lost. And then in the draft, they also got Zach Zerku as well. Speaking of Jason Russell Rowe, that was one of the more recent player that departed for this Columbus Crew team, followed by Lassie Lapinainen, A.Z. Jackson, who is now with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Darlington Nappy, this one is a huge loss for this Columbus Crew team. He was definitely the heartbeat in terms of the midfield, and this is where I wonder, heading into this season with the loss of that Darlington Nappy, what he means to this team. Well, maybe there might be some regression, especially in the midfield spot. I don't think so. I mean, as important as Nagby is to this team, I think their midfield is still pretty good, and especially if Bangora is the real deal. I think this midfield is going to be just as strong as we've seen in previous season. They also lost Derek Jones, who probably will never play a game in his professional career ever again. And just like what I said about LAFC with Yaya Boa, yeah, the reason why he's probably never going to play a game in his professional career is that he was involved in terms of the gambling scandal that we still haven't heard too much about. But something tells me, yeah, he definitely found guilty of that. And if that is the case, yeah, that could be a very sticky situation. Abraham Romero, and then I also added Wilfred Nancy in there. I know he's not a player, but that is definitely a big loss of them losing their head coach. Well, we thought that when he decided to go to Celtic, that was going to be a good move for him, and a great chance to get himself finally a chance to coach a big team in Europe and see how he does. And yeah, let's just say, to say the word disaster during his time with Celtic after he took charge of the team team and leaving this Columbus team in the offseason is an understatement. I mean, it was just it got so bad. The fact that the fans was openly revolting, not only toward Wilfried Nancy but also the front office or the board, as they say it in Scotland, of Celtic as well. So yeah, let's just say he hasn't really had a great time, and now that there are obviously a lot of rumor of maybe a couple of teams might be in for Wilfried Nancy. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe just take a year off, because again, as much as we do still have some big names out there, like with the likes of Jim Kern and now with Wilfred Nancy, and I wouldn't be surprised both of those names could be taking off the board heading into next season, or even as soon as this season, once the some of the firings start to happen with head coaches. I have a feeling Wilfred Nancy is going to take a break a bit. I mean, it is tough to try to recover after such a disaster that time that he has with Celtic, but there's no doubt that there's going to be plenty of teams that is looking to try to bring back Wilfried Nancy, because the style that he brings, it definitely works in MLS. It probably doesn't work in Europe, and especially giving such on a short notice. And that might be another reason why I don't think Wilfried Nancy might be higher straight away in the middle of the season, because his style, it does take time to get it right, and we kind of saw it with his Columbus team. Once was able to imprint the style that he wants his team, you can see how good this team was throughout the season. Now, looking at the first 5 games for the Columbus Crew, they go on the road to face against the Portland Timbers before facing against Sporting KC. Then they return home to face against Chicago Fire before returning home to face against Nashville SC. Might be a preview of the Eastern Conference final between both of those teams. Then they go on the road to face against Toronto FC. Looking at the last 5 games, they have the Hell is Real Derby against Cincinnati on October 18th. Then they go on the or no, they stay home to play against Toronto FC before going on the road to face against FC Dallas. Then they return home to face against DC United, and for the decision day game, they're going to be going on the road to face against the Chicago Fire. So looking at the strength of this team, I'm going to go with the defense and the midfield. Yes, I know the defense kind of regressed a little bit last season. Part of that mainly is due to the fact that they suffer a lot of injuries at the back, and that was kind of the thing I mentioned in the moving forward series, where last season was almost kind of a mirror in terms of what happened in 2021, where they just had a huge injury crisis. Had a lot of players missing times to a point near the end of the season. They were almost putting Columbus Crew two team at time as well. So yeah, there's no doubt that I think that plays a big part of why their defense wasn't as good as we saw last season. But when they do have their start defender healthy in this team, yeah, I think this is definitely one of the better defensive team in the league. And the same with the midfield as well. I know that the loss of Darlington Nagbe is huge, but I think there are decent some replacement for him, and Bengori is definitely one of those guys where I could definitely see he could be a replacement and slot in as a day one starter as well. Now the weakness of this team has got to be the depth. They do not have a lot of depth on this team, especially on the defensive end. And because of the way that, I'm going to assume Henrik Rydstrom might go the same style that Wilfried Nancy has, which is go at a free at the back system. They do have center backs on this team, but they don't have enough to really think that they could just always play free at the back in case of there's going to be some injury crisis. And that's kind of the reason why last season they started to have some regression on the defensive end, because they were running out of quality center backs, and next thing you know, that's when the defense started to open up. But also on the attack as well, the depth of the attack is not very deep. With the loss of Jason Russell Rowe, Wissam Abu Ali is the only number 9 on this team, and then after that, I mean, what are you gonna do? You're probably gonna maybe play Diego Rossi as a false nine again. And when you also look at this attack as well, I mean, I don't want to say this is considered to be a weakness, because I think once Abul Ali gets back into this team, he's going to produce. Same with Diego Rossi as well. He's always produced doing his career as well. But then after that, there is a lot of question mark, especially with the way that Daniel Gasak had a really rough season with Columbus. You are really hoping that he can have a bounce back year. Otherwise, that would be a huge DP flop. One of the rare times we see Columbus flop on a DP as well. And then after that, you got Aliu. Aliu, he was a little bit better last season, but that's not saying much. I mean, he's been kind of an average kind of player in MLS, and he's not going to be a guy that is going to really uplift your attack whatsoever. So, the free big question about this Columbus Crew team. So, obviously, the new boss, Henrik Rydstrom, that is going to be interesting to see how he will do in his first year. I mean, he has some huge shoes to fill with the departure of Wilfried Nancy. And I also wonder, because of the way that when you look at this roster, it's still a pretty much a Wilfried Nancy side. They didn't really make too much changes. Henrik Rydstrom didn't really change too much in terms of maybe bringing his old guy from Sweden to join this team. It's still pretty much a Wilfried Nancy side, and I wonder because of that, he's not going to really change too much to begin with. I know that he maybe have a different vision of how this team would look compared to Wilfried Nancy, but I also think that because he want to keep this team successful, I wouldn't be surprised he might not change too much. You want this team to continue to do well, and almost felt like Wilfried Nancy never left this team because if there's one thing that is very tricky when you're a new manager coming into a new team is the fact that especially when you're coming into a team that was very successful in the last couple of years, you don't want to change too much, especially when you don't have your guys. If you change too much and change the formula, that's when problems begins. And yeah, we'll see whether or not if that might be the case. I don't think so. I think that Henrik Reichel will probably see what Wilfried Nancy does and say, yeah, we're gonna keep doing that, and we're just gonna keep doing until it doesn't work whatsoever. So the other big question with this team is they need more signing in terms of the depth. Will they definitely make some? There definitely are some spots open, at least in the U22 spot. I think they have one U22 initiative spot open, and they can definitely open more spot as well as that brings up to the third question is will one of their DP and U22 player get brought out? All signs are definitely pointing that Daniel Gasak might be the players that I think is going to be brought out this upcoming season. I mean, if he has another underwhelming season, I have no doubt he's going to be bought out, and that will open the DP spot and maybe a way to improve the attack as well. Another player I'll throw in there is probably Hugo Picker, who he was okay last season, but still nothing like the quality of player that I we expect him to be as well. So if he decide to leave, then you open another U22 spot as well. So yeah, there are definitely some interesting decision that Columbus can definitely do in terms of opening some of their premium spot that could be used for depth, or maybe they'll when it comes to improving their depth. And this is the same thing I've said about teams that have decent academy. Columbus definitely have a pretty good academy. I mean, their second team they have found ways in terms of producing talent within their second team and promote them within the main team and then eventually sell them off for a huge amount of money. Won't be surprised they might look within for depth reason as well. But there's no doubt that heading into this season, it's going to be very interesting to see how this team is going to perform and especially again, I go back to saying about Henrik Reichstrom again because I think this will be a big determinant factor of whether or not if Columbus is going to be successful or not is that will he decide to stick with the same style that Nancy of course done, which have shown that it's been a successful formula all this year, or is he going to change it a little bit and maybe even make some big signing in the summer to fit the style that he envisioned this Columbus Crew team to look like now that he's the new head coach of this team. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Talk about the Columbus Crew in the season preview. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And if you're a Crew fan, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, and the free big question that this team, of course, would face? Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to put the prediction as well. I knew I missed something when it comes to prediction. Now, when it comes to high, I can definitely see this team being in one of the top four team, I would say probably third place. The low, I can definitely see them finishing like somewhere around ninth and 10th as well. And I know it might sound crazy that this team might miss out on the playoffs, but again, if they do have an injury crisis like they did last season, and if Henrik Rydstrom kind of meddle too much and change too much that doesn't really kind of fit this team, wouldn't be surprised if this team started to kind of fall apart like what we saw last season when they were kind of really falling apart near the end of the season because of the injury crisis that they suffered last year. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Talk about the Columbus Crew. And like I said, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, and the free big question, Columbus Crew fan, about this team heading into this season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.